I'm just gonna start this so I don't stop again. I'm trying to figure out more OBS shit. So, um, first off, date March 19th, 2020. Coronavirus. California and Washington just issued stay-at-home orders, but not a forced law. I don't know. People are talking about it in chat. I'm not paying much attention to it. Anyway, so I'm um, listening to Jocko talk to John Kim, and John Kim was recounting his story of his formative years were basically extremely abusive father, and he asked or Jocko asked John, sort of what made him turn to the light as opposed to the dark, right? So basically coming through that situation, he could have theoretically decided he was going to like follow in his father's footsteps, or he could decide not. You see people do both, one or the other, and Jocko was like, why'd you pick that one? Then John Kim said he didn't know, which was probably accurate because then he spends all day thinking about that, but the first thing he could think of to attribute it to was his mother. And it's hard to know whether or not he's virtue signaling or genuinely believes that. We'll go with he genuinely believes that. That'll be easier. Um, and maybe it doesn't matter. It's not that it's easier. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So we'll go with that he believes that, and that it's his mother. So he said it was his mother was a very strong woman. She was very beautiful. Didn't have to put up with that, but she had her two kids, and she was constantly trying to protect them. The one time he tried to protect her, he got beat up, and she said not to do that because she was trying to protect him. So he said the thing that potentially inspired him to go good versus bad was that his mother was protective of him, and that was potentially his inspiration. But he said he wasn't sure. So, um, point of all that is the how do I even phrase it? Concept of personality, and that everybody is born with a sort of, right now I'm referring to it as people have intrinsic and extrinsic personalities, which is a terrible way to refer to it, but the point of what I'm trying to say there is that people are born with a certain type of personality. That's what we're currently categorizing as how neurotic are you, how industrious are you, how disagreeable are you, that sort of stuff. That's sort of the things you're born with. That's the intrinsic personality. Patent pending, terrible name, but the extrinsic personality, what I'm calling that right now, is the concept of how the intrinsic personality interacts with the environment to form a layer on top that is. Because when you're a person, you have a certain set of immutable characteristics in terms of your personality. So if you're neurotic, you're always going to be neurotic. Like, people say you can stop being neurotic, but I don't think that's true. I don't think that's accurate. I think what happens is some people learn effectively how to utilize and leverage their neuroticism in order to some sort of positive effect. Yeah, I'll get into that a little bit. But anyway, you can always sort of strip something back down to its base layer, the intrinsic personality, if you will. And you do that by stripping or modifying or changing the extrinsic layer. But the extrinsic personality layer in this case has its own set of like attributes and its own set of rules that it follows. So, I mean, I think a good example of this is rust on iron. So, if you think of iron, Fe, if it rusts, one of the way you basically want to remove rust using things that have different levels of acidity. So, one of the common ways to remove rust from iron is vinegar. So, if you apply vinegar to rusted iron, uh, the vinegar and the iron react. Well, basically, the iron, the rust reacts with the acetic acid. So it actually, through a chemical reaction, produces ferric acetate in water. So why this matters is because vinegar performs this function on rusted steel explicitly, or on rusted iron. But if you put vinegar on wood, it damages wood. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is that a thing that will work for one instance is a thing that will cause damage in another instance. So talking about the John Kim circumstance, right? His mother behaving like that because of who his intrinsic personality was, he was able to take that and it made him want to become a Navy SEAL and an astronaut and a doctor and all that stuff. But somebody else with a different intrinsic personality, God, it's a terrible name. I think, need to think of a better way to describe that. A person with a different set of immutable like personality characteristics would have taken that differently because they were different starting materials. So, like, a different way to say that is John Kim is iron, and somebody else that's not John Kim would be wood. So, whereas the vinegar is helping John Kim remove rust, well, I'm sort of mixing up my thoughts here. So, let me start this over real quick. So, a better way to imagine what happened with John Kim there is he was iron and he got galvanized. So the galvanization process, God, galvanizing, you're doing rust prevention on iron or steel, and it's coated in zinc, and zinc stops the oxygen and the water from causing the iron or the steel to rust. And part of how it does that is because the zinc also is a sacrificial metal. So the zinc blocks it and has its own reaction, which causes the things that would normally react with the iron to not. So because John Kim was iron, his mother galvanized him, gave him that layer of zinc, and the things that his father did actually caused him to not change from a nice, shiny iron or steel. So why I'm getting to the rest of that is because the whole reason you ask somebody a question like that, what caused you to turn away from the darkness and towards the light? Uh, I think it's more relevant to a different understanding because what what causes John Kim to go to the light in this instance, his mother. Like I said, a different person with a different intrinsic personality or immutable personality set would not necessarily react that way. So, but but really the question to ask there is if someone experiences that or they don't have the mother, right? Like if a John Kim, for example, didn't have his mother, that didn't galvanize him in that manner, and instead caused him to rust, as it were, and towards the darkness. The question is, in that case, what is acetic acid? What is vinegar? What actually removes the rust? And again, it has to be a very specific thing because the acetic acid only does that with iron. Like certain techniques will only work for certain people that have experienced certain things. So the purpose of finding all the data in terms of what's personality, how does that function, and so you can identify the core components so you can sort of understand the chemistry of it. Because ideally, what you want, what you're ideally looking for, is A, if you can, if you know what a person is like, what sort of environment can you put them in to have them be maximally successful in terms of their home life and whatnot. But assuming you can't control their home life and they're going to go through lots of different things that cause all sorts of different problems and give you this big extrinsic personality you have to deal with, you need to identify how you remove their rust, and that how you do that is going to be different based on who they are, right? Because vinegar trick, like I said, only works on iron with rust, it doesn't work on wood. So that's really what you're trying to solve for. You're trying to figure out what are the particular methods if person A has all these specific personality traits they're born with, and they go through circumstance B, which is abusive father, extremely strong, supportive, beautiful mother. They get output C, which is John Kim, Navy SEAL astronaut, right? But if person A, which is still John Kim, goes through situation B, now instead of this abusive mother and a father that's never there, he now becomes person C, which is potentially, horrible and embittered. So the question is how do you strip off the B layer? Because you can't strip off the A layer because that's just intrinsic. You can't get rid of that. How do you strip off the B layer? And how you strip off the B layer is explicit to the B layer that's there. And the B layer that's there only exists in the way the B layer does because of the A layer. Because a different person in John Kim's situation would not have become John Kim. So that's really what you're trying to figure out. I've been thinking of, I've found it's more useful to think of personality and development as a physics problem, not a psychology problem. Right? Like, simple assertion. Different people will respond to different things in different ways. Obvious. Everybody knows this. And if they don't, it's because they don't know anything about this topic. Different people react to different circumstances in different ways. The same person will react to different circumstances in different ways. Also seems pretty obvious. Similar people will react to similar circumstances in similar ways, right? So, what's the ideal good? And part of why I've been trying to think about this as a physics problem and as a chemistry problem is because psychology is kind of in the dark ages about what the purpose of all this stuff is, or what human functionality is and how it works, right? I think I've already ranted about this before, so I won't rant again about it at length. But the short version is we want everything to behave like steel. Everything you just got to grind. You just got to grind. Like you got to work hard. You got to put your nose to the grindstone. You got to be disciplined. And I don't think that's going to work. I think it works for being in the dark ages, and all you're worried about is steel, and all you're worried about is getting horses so you can get armor on them, and you can get your knight steel so you can go kill people, so you can get more food, so you can make more steel, so you can get more horses and more knights. Like I think it makes sense in that context, and I think that's what modern day democracy and capitalism is. I think it's the medieval era of psychology because we're trying to get everybody to be the same thing or the same types of things, and that's what we're sort of characterizing things as. But part of how we actually build rocket ships is we understand that inert gases are what we need in order to contain the fuel so we can actually make rockets. So the question is, what do you use lazy and dumb people for? So part of what I've done is I've gotten a periodic table of elements that's right down there. And why I have it is I'm trying to use basically just the format of what the periodic table is as sort of inspiration to understand this. Like, what amounts of people are noble gases versus what are transition metals, what are post-transition metals, what are metalloids, and what are the psychological equivalents of those things, and then what is their purpose in a society. Because some people are hard workers, very industrious. Some people are very creative and very artistic. And it's like, what is this society? I think a society that is out of the medieval times, out of the dark ages, has enough of understanding of the psychological periodic table of elements and the chemistry of how those elements interact across long interactions in terms of how you build something up, how you break it down, how you rust metal versus how you polish the metal and rust it off, and how do you get it to be galvanized so it's now more resistant, I think once we get to that, once we get past this sort of dark ages mentality about everything is just discipline, everything's just working hard, I think that's when we're really, really going to start to unlock the society. But the question is, how do you unlock that stuff? I don't know for sure. I think it's a lot of data gathering, but I feel like what's going to, I don't know. I don't know what's going to be the most successful. My instinct is telling me that what you want to do is you already have you already have some basic understanding of the categorization of A, which is the immutable personality characteristics. And I think you need a little bit more nuanced understanding of how those function because since human beings don't apply meanings to things, which is objects or events, they merely restrict the meaning they offer us to specified domains. Different people take different things different ways because they're focusing on specific aspects of the data. So a person that is more negative and neurotic and somebody telling them to love them, they'll be suspicious. They'll be like, this is all a ploy to get control of me because they're focusing on those aspects of the meaning coming at them. Whereas a person that is talking to someone else and saying, yeah, I'll give you a ride somewhere when they're obviously going to try to rob them, they can't tell that because what they're focusing on is, oh, this person's trying to be helpful, right? So I think we have like an early, really, really early periodic table for understanding intrinsic personality. So it might be, you basically need to get enough data on enough people's intrinsic personality start to categorize what extrinsic points are that they can hold in commonalities, but you have to do it in really general ways, not in super specific ways. So, like, to give you an example, it's less necessarily about the explicit reaction of vinegar with rust. It's less about that. It's more about understanding the building blocks of why that happens. So, like, what's the valence? What's the position of the electrons? It's that sort of level that we need to start thinking about this stuff on, which is, it's not necessarily an issue with their mother per se, or an issue with their father per se, but it's an issue with a figure who at youth they feel admiration for. It is an occurrence with a bonded entity at a young age, and the occurrence, what happens, what that person does, is in part because of all the things they've done and all the things they've experienced. But if you can start to categorize, okay, these people that are these types of these sets of intrinsic personality traits, whenever we ask them about whether or not their mother told them if they genuinely loved them, they responded like this. Then we can start to get examples of how A interacts with B, and that starts to give us some sort of inkling of how we categorize those events and how we link them. So, is there a particular way that you think of an emotionally significant event from a bonded adult figure in a youthful life that is different than, say, how you would categorize an emotionally significant event from a selected partner of a similar age that's in a peer range, right? It's about breaking it down to those sorts of levels of differentiality and figuring out how those different people process those different things in those different ways. Once you start to build enough of a mapping of that, of a high level understanding in terms of like atomic weights and electron position and stuff like that, once you start to get an idea of that, then you can start to get an idea and understanding of how the B layer is formed and what the B layer looks like. And then if you can get an idea of this person that's type A, and we'll say we've understood them enough to categorize them as iron, they've gone through circumstance B, which is, say, exposes them to oxygen and water, so they have begun to rust. We have enough of an understanding of how those two things connect together that we say, the solution for this person, for helping this person become what they're supposed to be, because they're iron and they have a set way they're supposed to operate inside the universe, and because what they're dealing with is rust, we know exactly we have to use vinegar for this person alone, this person specifically, not the person that's made of wood, right? The person that's made of iron that has rust, not the person that's made of iron that's been galvanized, the person that's been made of iron and has rust. Vinegar, right? It's it's chemistry, it's physics. It's not some it's not some mystic ethereal problem. It's literally chemistry. It's actually physics. Anyway, that's what I've been thinking about. Yeah, that's enough.